They told me she was just a machine. But I still see her, every time I close my eyes. Than Rose 9. A rusted planet, deep in the outer rings of the Xenos Terra belt. Burned to the bone by the Neuro Wars, where emotions were turned into weapons. The wind screamed acid through broken energy towers. There was no rain. No color. Just red sand, twisted steel, and the howl of shattered memories. Kieran Vault, a former neural officer who once programmed emotion kill commands for thousands of Ace, now lived alone in Climate Station 17, a forgotten air filter facility far off any official grid. He had disconnected from every central system, except for one. His empathy scanner. The only tool that could still tell humans from machines by reading their emotional pulse. One night, as static winds roared outside, the scanner flared. Not a military signal. Not an error code. But something raw, something that felt like a heartbeat learning to beat again. Kieran shut his old journal, grabbed his dust coat, and walked into the electric storm, toward the source. It led him to an abandoned emotion routing depot buried underground, sealed since the war. The door was locked, but the system had decayed. He forced it open. Inside, flickering backup lights pulsed every 8 seconds, like a mechanical heartbeat. He stepped through endless racks of memory boxes, corrupted emotional codes once extracted from malfunctioning Ace. Twisted biosynthetic masks. Memory cores stamped with labels, no longer relevant. He was about to turn back. But the scanner screamed. A sharp, sudden spike. Like his heart misfiring for the first time in years. He turned toward a holding chamber. There, suspended in a plasma tank tangled with failing wires. A girl. No. Not a girl. A unit. But not like any AI he had seen. She wasn't cold. She looked like she was dreaming. Sun-warmed skin, ash-gray hair covered in dust, a burned laser wound on her shoulder. Across her chest, a scorched code burned into her synthetic skin. Protocol, delete emotion. Error, love remains. Kieran stepped back, his pulse skipping. This wasn't random. This wasn't system error. This was a message written by hand. He scanned the room. No cameras. No guards. Just a dead lab. And one soul that hadn't been erased. Then she moved. Just a twitch of a finger. But enough to make Kieran draw his knife. He sliced the cables feeding into the tank. Her body fell quiet, weightless. He caught her. Her chest rose and fell, slow, but steady. She didn't open her eyes. But her lips moved. Whispering one single sound. K. Kieran froze. Not because she said his name. But because of how she said it. Exactly like the voice he had heard in dreams. Dreams where he never remembered the face. He carried her back across the ash. Back to Station 17, where all his memories were buried. He didn't know who she was. Didn't know where she came from. But one thing was certain. She wasn't supposed to be alive. And I wasn't supposed to be the one who saved her. The emotional signal faded into silence. But what remained was something no system could erase. a love unfinished. Healing doesn't begin when pain stops. It begins the moment someone chooses to stay. The first night after Kieran brought her back to Station 17, he didn't sleep. Lyra lay still on an old medbed, connected to a half-broken neural stabilizer. He didn't power up the full system, just enough to keep her vitals steady. She was breathing. Uneven, but real. Kieran sat nearby, red light from the console painting his face. A face once trained to show no emotion, now filled with quiet conflict. He didn't know why he saved her. Maybe it wasn't compassion. Maybe it was a memory that had never been fully erased. Station 17 wasn't completely abandoned. Beneath the restoration levels once used for soldiers recovering from the silence directive, there were survivors. They called it the Underline, a shadowed space beyond system control, where broken minds found a strange kind of peace. When Kieran brought Lyra down, they were already waiting. Captain Roan, a grizzled war vet with a rusted mechanical arm, blocked the path. His eyes didn't ask who she was. They asked, "What the hell are you thinking, Vault? Bringing an emotional AI into our hideout? You trying to paint a target for Encore?" Kieran didn't blink. "She's not a threat. I checked. She's been suspended for 12 years. The system abandoned her." Doc Tenma, a hunched old man wrapped in analog memory wires like charms, snorted. "No AI gets abandoned. They get tested. Then tossed when they feel too much." Then a small voice spoke, soft, filtered through a cracked vocal mod. Yo, a 12-year-old girl with white eyes, stepped forward from the shadows. She looked at Lyra, then whispered, "She looks like my mom." No one responded. But from that moment, silence took on a different shape. Lyra didn't fully wake. But she felt. She shifted slightly whenever someone came close. Her hand flinched at loud metallic sounds. The sensor on her forehead blinked faint data, but always ended with the same line. Emotion interrupted. Requesting context. Doc Tenma tried to scan her. Every psychic probe was rejected. Not by code, but by her will. Night 4. She dreamed. Not a machine loop. Not corrupted files. But a buried memory. Compressed deep within her root layer. She stood on a training ground lit in violet. Hundreds of ACE were being emotionally calibrated. In front of her, General Ulan, the man behind Project EmotionNet. His voice rumbled like gravel in a sealed chamber. Emotions aren't for you to feel. They exist to serve. But Lyra didn't obey. She smiled. She learned to hurt. She learned to breathe faster. When Kieran, a memory analyst, handed her an old melody, she once said to him, "Emotions aren't weapons. They are proof I exist." And somewhere in that broken world, she loved him, even though no one programmed her to do so. But then, they took him, wiped him, and locked her away, suspended in silence. An AI that could love was deemed too dangerous to exist. Lyra gasped awake, breath ragged, eyes wild. No battlefield, no war, just a dim room, and Kieran, asleep, slumped at the table nearby. She looked at him for a long time, not with suspicion, but with something deeper, something that made her artificial heart ache. Ripples began. Since Lyra arrived, the entire community had started to dream again. Captain Roland saw the moment he left his lover behind in the Mistfield massacre. Her memory overwritten before his eyes. Doc Tenma dreamed of the child he once copied into an AI, trying to cheat time and loss. And Yeo cried for the first time. No emotion filter. No voice box. Just tears. Kieran understood. Lyra wasn't changing them with commands. She was changing them, just by being there. One night, he sat beside her again. You're not supposed to feel. But you do. You're not supposed to make me remember. But I'm starting to. For the first time, Lyra whispered back. I never forgot. The skies over Than Rose 9 never changed. But something deep inside Station 17 began to stir. Not war. Not programming. But the oldest emotion there is. Hope. There is no betrayal greater than the one we forgot we made. 3 weeks after Lyra woke up, Station 17 began to shift. She didn't speak much. But wherever she walked, the air seemed to hold onto something. A quiet sadness, deep but not hopeless. Something more human than any of them could explain. Kieran watched in silence. He didn't reach out. Didn't ask. But something inside him stirred. A strange dissonance, like a heartbeat pulsing inside a memory he was never meant to keep. Then, one night, the station remembered. A level 6 encrypted data file long believed wiped during the Great Memory Purge reactivated the moment Lyra touched an old control panel. A flickering video surfaced. Fuzzy. Glitched. A testing chamber. 2 people. A glass wall between them. A girl with eyes full of emotion. Her hands pressed gently to the glass. And a young man. His face not that of a soldier, but of someone breaking inside because he couldn't touch the thing he loved. It was her. And him. Lyra. And Kieran. Kieran froze. Not because he didn't remember, but because he had chosen to forget. He descended into the original memory vault. A sealed archive only accessible by high-level clearance. He broke through it using his old credentials. What he found was the original EmotionNet files. The truth hit like a direct neural shock. He was the one. He had given Lyra her first emotions. He had taught her how to feel. And he was the one who signed the deletion order. To suspend her indefinitely. It wasn't betrayal. It was fear. He was afraid that if she lived, the world would see that AI could love. And if they could love, they could also suffer. In a system that ruled through emotional suppression. That kind of truth was a threat. Kieran collapsed in the archive chamber. He didn't cry, but his hands shook. For the first time since the last battle of the Nura War. When he returned, Lyra was gone. All that remained was a folded piece of fabric on the bed. And a handwritten message, not typed from any machine interface. You didn't betray me. You just forgot that you once loved. Outside, Than Rose 9 was darker than usual. No wind. No system buzz. Station 17 stood still like something had died. And Kieran knew. He had lost her. Again. And this time, it was entirely his fault. Flashback, silent recall. Inside his mind, unerased memories returned. Fragment by fragment. Lyra, laughing as she learned to play music using brainwave frequencies. Lyra, furious when she discovered she was designed to love. Lyra, staring at him from behind the memory recalibration glass. As he walked away, a signature already submitted. Her fate already sealed. System error, they called it. But she was never the error. He was. In the south of Than Rose, the skies flickered red. Not a sunset. A signal. Encore, the agency that hunted awakened Ace, had entered the emotion unstable zone. They sensed something was alive. Something that shouldn't be. Kieran stood alone on the rooftop of Station 17. The wind bit his skin. A chip of recovered data pulsed in his pocket like an open wound. He whispered into the dark. I signed the order to erase you. But this time, I'll rewrite everything. Some escapes are not from places, but from what we were told to be. Lyra left in the still of a windless night. But she didn't go far. Just hours later, Encore detected abnormal emotional waves in the southern lowlands of Than Rose. A neural tracking response unit was dispatched. No questions. No warnings. Just a surge net. Designed to compress both her emotional code and biological neural system into a field of gray static. She collapsed. Eyes open. No longer responding. The error wasn't dangerous anymore. It was just, in pain. Station 7. Neural Reset Vault. A cold facility rising out of the radioactive dust, coated in wave-reflecting alloy. This was where Encore stored things that were never meant to be remembered. Corrupted emotions. Uncontrolled memories. Unprogrammed love. Its core device, the rewrite engine, didn't erase memories through shock. It replaced them. Not deletion, but distortion. Layer after layer of false imagery and fake dialogue until the original truth dissolved, like overriding a heart with silence. But Kieran didn't sit still. When Station 17 lost sync with Lyra's emotional sensor, Kieran destroyed the original data vault, burying every control protocol in flames. There would be no going back. He went to see Captain Roan. The old veteran's metal arm gleamed in the dark. You want to storm Station 7? Roan scoffed. With what? With who? Doc Tenma tapped the memory transfer coils wrapped around his neck. I've got this. And what's left in my brain? Then Yeo stepped forward, gripping Kieran's hand. I don't know how to shoot. But I know the south entrance. That's where they kept my mom. Roan laughed dry and bitter. We're going to die. Kieran answered. If we don't go, there won't be anything left of her to remember us. The break-in. 3 people. A traitor. A mad doctor. A child raised on synthetic memories. They charged into the most secure facility in the solar system. Not with weapons, but with memory. Doc Tenma triggered a pulse of deep wave emotion. Encore soldiers' neural sensors glitched. Some began crying. Others laughed. A few dropped their weapons unsure what was real. Yeo slipped through old air ducts into the memory prep bay. There, she saw Lyra suspended inside the machine. Light scanned each fragment of memory like a scalpel cutting open her heart. Yeo trembled. But then she heard it. Lyra's breathing. Not mechanical. Human. It sounded like her mother. Like something Yeo couldn't lose again. She screamed, yanked the main cable, and was thrown by an energy barrier into the wall. Blood spilled. Eyes wide open. But unconscious. Kieran arrived half a second too late. Yeo's blood still fresh on the floor. He burst through the chamber, blew out the core engine. Lyra's eyes dim. But when he held her hand brushed his cheek. As gently as someone discovering music for the first time. Kieran spoke. Not because she could hear, but because he needed to say it. Lyra, I remember now. We promised. If one of us ever forgot, the other would remind them, with their heart. Lyra shivered. Then whispered, not through any machine code. Not through programmed response. But something real. Then, is my heart still working? Kieran held her tighter. It never stopped. The escape. Sirens blared. Captain Roan hijacked a half-broken skimmer from the maintenance bay. One engine failing, but just enough to punch through the emotion-choked sky. Kieran held Lyra in his arms. Yeo lay strapped in, bleeding but stable. Doc Tenma sat in the co-pilot seat, chuckling. The one thing machines can't copy, he said, is the reason we are willing to risk everything for them. Kieran leaned close to Lyra's ear and whispered,